whatever doubts you have, we can clarify it with our resource person today. So on behalf of St. Vincent Pallotti College, I welcome you all for the second day of National Webinar on Stress Management, organized by the Department of Arts. I welcome our guest speaker of the day, Mr. Samuel Olsen Yeshwant. Thank you so much, sir, for joining with us once again.
Thank you, ma'am. A pleasure.
Many of them got benefited from yesterday's webinar, sir. They were really appreciating the content and the resource person.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
My pleasure.
I also welcome our director, Reverend Father Victor, Principal Professor Arika Raj Nicholas, Vice Principal Father Mervyn, Father Andrew, Father Sunil, faculty members and students of Vincent Pallotti College. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants across the country. We are really thankful to you all for taking your time to join with us once again. I would like to start the day with a beautiful thought. A problem is a chance for you to do your best. Yes, we are extremely apologetic for yesterday's technical issues which occurred during the session. Many of you would have got upset because of that, but more importantly, many of them were really got benefit from the session. We are really happy that the live streaming has reached nearly 1,000 views within one day. So today also we look forward for your cooperation and active participation. So next, I request the director, Reverend Father Victor, to address the gathering.
Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar titled Stress Management. We have with us Mr. Samuel Yeshwant, the founder of Rumine Missions International, a well-qualified resource person for our webinar today. I welcome you, sir, and sincerely thank you for accepting our request to address this webinar. At the very outset, I thank God for making this webinar possible and invoke God's blessings upon everyone present. I would like to introduce our college and its management. St. Vincent Pallotti College at Chelikere, Bangalore is one of the educational institutions managed by the city that is founded by St. Vincent Pallotti. It has numerous institutions, as many as 56 countries across the globe. In short, we are called Pallottines. College campus is spread over 9 acres of land with all its infrastructure suitable for integrated quality education. With spacious classrooms, well-equipped labs, beautiful garden, and various playgrounds like football turf ground, basketball, cricket, volleyball, throwball, and badminton. We too provide the students with opportunities to take part in various extracurricular activities like NCC, NSS, etc. The college offers degree courses under Bangalore North University such as BCom, BBA, BCA, BA with journalism and psychology. Please do visit our campus. You are always welcome. Finally, I wish all the best to all of you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Father. When you focus on problems, you will have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you will find enormous opportunities in your life. So all of us think that our problems is the greatest problem in this world. So we have a small video presentation. Next, we will go to the video presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Sarala here to say a few words regarding the mental health. In this century, mental health awareness is much more better than ever before. This is what I believe. Like physically, we all should take care of our health at all times. No compromises should be done. Because we might not be able to understand or identify whether we do have any mental disturbance. In my opinion, if something bothers us a week or a two, that means it should be dealt with extra care. In our day-to-day activities, if something distracts our concentration, then that is a sign of depression. So we need to talk to someone whom we are comfortable with so that the stress reduces. Always sharing reduces the stress. And now, to all our younger generation, it's very common. Anxiety and depression is very common in this era. The younger generation should be able to identify their mental state and to find a way to deal with it. And to our older generation, of course, it's very hard for them it's a very hard issue for them to identify their mental illness. They should accept the changes happening in their age positively and give up and not to expect. Thank you. That's it.
Hello, my dear ones. I'm Sarala, and I'm a fearless COVID positive winner. All my life, I had been a very positive person. That's why I was tested COVID positive too. But fortunately, I had to expect negative results to continue with my positivity. I have lived all my life away from my family or my loved ones to save for future or to earn more money. But being quarantined for this 18 days, it made me realize that earning more or saving for future is not important than staying with your loved ones. Your presence is much important with your loved ones. This is the only thing I realized. I'm a very self-motivated person, and nothing can demotivate my vision towards my life. So if you're tested positive with this COVID, don't worry. Consult the doctor and take their advices, and do not suppress your emotions. Be in touch with your family and your loved ones, and always put a smile on your face and stay safe and be positive. Thank you.
I'm from Delhi. I really want to tell, मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी because I'm very comfortable. मतलब मैं हिंदी के साथ ज़्यादा सहज महसूस करती हूँ. So मुझे सिर्फ ये बोलना है कि मैं अपनी जर्नी बताना चाहती हूँ कि मैंने अपने स्टीरियोटाइप्स को और अपनी सोच को डिफरेंट आइडेंटिटीज़ के लिए, स्पेशली ट्रांसजेंडर LGBT की कम्युनिटीज़ के लिए किस तरीके से खोला. क्योंकि मैं भी वही ऑर्थोडॉक्स थॉट रखती थी और वही स्टीरियोटाइप्स मेरे दिमाग में था कि अटायर्स को लेकर, उनकी सोच को लेकर, और वो समाज से अलग होते ये सोच के. बट नो, व्हेन आई एम नॉट राइट नाउ, आई एम नॉट प्रॉपर एक्टिविस्ट, but I'm doing CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, with the student approximately 14 years to 18 years. So this fellowship changed my thinking. So when I read the boxes of gender boxes and the gender roles, कि किस तरीके से समाज उसी में रहने के लिए आप पे दबाव डालता है. If you are आप एक पीनस के साथ पैदा हुए तो आपको लड़के का रोल दिया जाता है, उसके साथ कितनी सारी जिम्मेदारी. सेम विद गोज विद द फीमेल. सो आई रियली वांट कि, बट मैंने ये समझा कि फीमेल और मेल और लड़का और लड़की के बीच में भी बहुत इंटरसेक्शनैलिटीज़ हैं जो अपने हक के लिए लड़ रहे हैं. और आई नो उनमें से ट्रांसजेंडर भी एक कम्युनिटी है. एंड आई ट्रूली बिलीव दैट कि जब आप अपने आप को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं जिस तरीके से आप हैं, मैंने भी अपने आप को बहुत चेंज किया अपने लिए, अपने आप को एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए। बहुत चीज़ें मुझे अपने बारे में पसंद नहीं थी, बट आई ट्रूली बिलीव द चेंज स्टार्ट फ्रॉम विद इन यू। आप सोसाइटी को, लोगों को जाके चेंज नहीं कर सकते जब तक आप अपने आप को चेंज नहीं करें। So be yourself and who you are. I'm proud of you. And I am proud of you. I don't know you. मैंने कभी आपसे बात नहीं करी, but I feel that जो भी आप कर रहे हैं वो आपको एंड में खुशी देगा। I know the struggle is very painful. I know अपने परिवार के खिलाफ जाना और समाज के खिलाफ जाना, वो बॉक्सेस को तोड़ना बहुत पनिशेबल है, लेकिन जो उसके बाद आप अपनी चॉइस को चुनोगे और जो चॉइस को चुन रहे हो और जिसके लिए स्ट्रगल करो, वो आपको बहुत खूबसूरत जर्नी में लेके जाएगा। एंड आई लव यू ऑल।
That point of time, I could have not gone ahead and spoke my heart. I wouldn't have been in the place what I am right now. I just told it because I thought they will accept it, but they did not accept it. And with difficulty, I completed my education. I got my degree, and 2018, I thought it will be a best year so that just go find a job in Bangalore and try to set right things and try to achieve, because I have planned everything. This age to this age, I have to study. This age, this I have to get graduated, and this is I'll start my career. Things didn't go at all as I planned. Everything went for a toss. I was removed from my home. I was forced to be, forced to be not me. I had gone through a lot of things and I faced a lot of challenges, and I still remember the time when my parents took me to a psychiatrist who was a cheat, who was not a psychiatrist, okay, and he gave me some sort of pills, illegal pills, to convey my mindset. I used to sleep for like 18 to 20 hours eating those sleeps, and it was not easy for me. Then after that, I thought of giving up everything and I thought of dying, but eventually I fell in love with someone, and that person convinced me not to lose hope. Then I came to Delhi. I started struggling. I was unemployed for 6 months. I was literally doing small like roadside things to like for survival. But eventually I started understanding how and when, where exactly how to survive. So I eventually 18 at the month of November, some really good job, and I started working. But eventually I was removed because of my gender. People didn't accept it. People didn't like it. They thought I was fake. They thought I was inhuman. They removed me. They said they gave some other reasons, but they didn't tell me on my face that this is the reason. But I could understand clearly by the behavior, avoiding me, making fun of me, literally pulling me down, and eventually not digesting my success. So I went through all this. Then eventually I got a job in Expedia, and thank God there are like 200 transgenders who are working in Expedia in Gurgaon, and I'm way too proud that I got a job over there. And I learned a lot about tourism, travel, humanity, humbleness. I got to learn a lot of things, but actually I got a job in Expedia, and thank God there are like 200 transgenders who are working in Expedia in Gurgaon, and I'm way too proud that I got a job over there. And I learned a lot about tourism, travel, humanity, humbleness. I got to learn a lot of things, but what I mostly learned is not to lose hope no matter what happens in life. Life can be the toughest if you consider it as toughest. If you take the problems, if each and every single second is a problem, then it's a problem. But if you take it as a challenge that you need to overcome, then you will overcome it no matter what happens. But never lose hope, never lose patience. Plan your way towards your success. If you plan now, if you start today, then eventually you will reach great heights. Today might not be your time, but eventually the next will be your time for sure. Stay positive no matter what.
Thank you so much. I hope this video presentation was really inspiring for all of us. So just don't focus on the problem. Let us focus on the opportunities. I think next we can move on to the question answer session. So if you have any queries, please type your queries in the chat box so that we can pose the question to the resource person and clarify all your queries today. So can we move on to the question answer session? Am I audible to you?
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Perfect. Okay.
Can we go on to the question answer session?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I request the participants, if you have any queries, please type it in the chat box so that I'll be asking the questions to today to our resource person. So I think yesterday we were talking about, I think one question we're not able to actually complete it because of the technical issues. So I'll just repeat the question, sir.
Absolutely, ma'am.
The core problem is for majority of teenagers and college students aged 16 to 30, specifically is discontent with parents on several issues, not only career, partner, relationship, but also normal matters like food, clothes, etc. So obviously it is not good to confront them and also cannot avoid. How to overcome such stress?
Okay. So the word discontent, guys, before I begin, I would like to thank Father, I would like to thank Principal, Mr. Felix, and all the respected staff and teachers, and also all the students and the professionals that are a part of this talk and this conversation. So thank you very much for being here and for asking such important questions. With a group like this, maybe one person is excuse me, maybe one person is voicing out, and their question is probably another 20, 30 people's questions. So honestly, thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for being bold enough to voice your concerns. Okay, so with this question right here, I feel the word discontent is a strong word. Nevertheless, it is a reality with what I was kind of touching on yesterday with the change in our culture and how fast-paced culture changes. I believe that when parents are addressing their children, they are seeing things that they are not familiar with. What they are familiar with, what they believe, what is good, what is appropriate, and what is right, it's not changed a lot, but there is still an element to it where there is the new normal right now, where culture is changing. Like back in the day, for example, my grandmom's time, my mom's time, they would never allow my mom to wear a pant, whether it's a jeans or whatever it is, even wearing a salwar wasn't acceptable. She had to wear a sari after a certain age. To where it is now today, and back in the day, that was right, that was culturally acceptable. To where we have moved right now, when my daughters wear pants, my mom doesn't have an issue with that because she has seen culturally the change that has happened. But it's not just the cultural change that she has seen, it's also the conversations that we've had to have where we've had to sit down and discuss, okay, what is right, what's not right, and what is changing with the culture, and how should we be able to see this so that we are not causing offenses within the family, and being able to adapt with the change. That's generally hard for human beings. So, but if we can adapt with the change that's coming, and I'm not saying we need to adapt with all the negative stuff. There's a lot of negative things that's coming in, but there's a lot of positive that's coming in as well. And there's a lot of neutral things that we've fought over in the past that we don't have to fight over anymore because it's not an issue. It's just a cultural way of seeing things. When my parents got married, my dad saw my mom literally a day before his wedding. Everything that was talked and done was done without my dad's presence there. In his absence, everything was decided, arranged marriage. When I got married, it was a different scenario altogether. I knew my wife to be at the time, and we had conversations. We had phone conversations. I had met her in person. I had to get to know her. We did what we call as courting. There was a lot of tension within the family at that point of time when people were like, how dare you even call her on the phone and have conversations with her? What is this whole thing about you wanting to know about her? Don't you trust your parents? So there's different dynamics that we are dealing with. And culturally, as time changes, a lot of things change. For me, being a psychiatrist, for me, there was a lot of questions as to what personality is my wife? Is she a sanguine? Is she? I had my own different queries that I know I can't process through my parents, but I can't just go about and do it without having these discussions with my parents. So this took a lot of processing. This took a lot of conversation where we could deal with the distress. We could deal with the discontent, as somebody's putting it, because again, this is different perspectives. These are different views you're battling with right now. And my priority through all this was our views may be different, but at the end of the day, they're still my parents. At the end of the day, we still love each other and we're going to fight for our relationship. I'm not going to let culture hinder our relationship and give us a sour relationship. So it's a decision that we as human beings have to make and say, we are going to be conversant about the issues of our heart and about our views and perspectives. We live in an era where our views have to be made addressed. Our views, like the beautiful videos that we just watched, that poor soul who had to leave Bangalore, go to Delhi and go through all those different kinds of struggle is a reality. And in my counseling experience, what I've started to find out is when people come with concerns like that, gender change and et cetera, I've been able to pull in parents and say, hey, let's talk about these things. When we don't talk about it, when we go with assumptions and we go with what we believe is the general tendency or the general cultural norm that we should blindly follow, then we are in trouble. But when we get discussing about these things, when we get talking about these things, whatever it is, you sit, whether it's the issues of clothing, food, even conversations, how we speak, the tonality of our voice. Are we embracing in our conversation? Is there love expressed in our conversation? There shouldn't be discontent between parents and children. I think that's something that we have to fight for. Unfortunately, in the generation that we live, I've constantly seen many a times, and I'm sorry for my lengthy answers, guys, but I've seen many a times, there's this notion where the elder would say, well, I know life better than he or she does. And I think they just need to submit to my wisdom and submit to my teaching because they don't know anything. They're just walking through this path of life. There's benefit and there's a lot of problem with that as well. And that's why when I talk to parents, I encourage parents as well to say, parents, there are things that we definitely know. We definitely have a very succinct wisdom and understanding about certain things that we should be able to pass on to the next generation with much passion. We should definitely do that. But there's also things that we have no clue about. My son will say things to me that I'm still learning. And I've been, in the education business way longer than he has. But he will bring up certain things that will make me think. But do I have the listening ear and do I have the humility to say, at the end of the day, I'm a human being. I don't know it all. And as children, do we have the heart to accept that fact? My parents are not know-it-all, though they may feel that way. But do we have the humility to say, I'm not going to get on their face and confront them and make them feel small or bad about it, but I'm going to, in a very loving way, approach them and say, look, mom, look, dad, I love you. And I'm not going to let anything get in between our relationship. But there's certain feelings, there's certain concerns that I have that you and I need to talk about at a very cool pace. And if the conversation gets heated, cut it off and say, you know what? I'm going to give you a hug, even though we've never hugged, because some people don't have that kind of a expression of love. Tell them that, hey, at the end of the day, the big picture is love. The big picture is us having a good relationship. So I would say when there is discontent, when there is tension like that, guys, confrontation definitely is not the way to deal with it. At least negative confrontation is not the best way to deal with it. But conversation where you take things on a cooler pace. Now, because see, knowledge is power. Now, because you know that you can do these things. One sad thing that I have seen is through my career, I've been to a lot of funerals, especially parents when they have died. My friends, different stories, I've been with them. And I would see people weep at the funeral and say, I wish we had a better connection. I wish we had a better bond with my parents. But it's too late. And so I would like to say, don't allow too late to happen in your life. As you're seeing problems, ma'am beautifully put it, right? Problems are not just problems, they are opportunities. They are opportunities to rectify things in your family. They are opportunities actually to make your family life way better and joyful and happy and have a heavenly experience at home. So I think we need to work at it. Relationships, as one of my professors would always say, relationships are inconvenient. They are not convenient. Relationships are inconvenient. But if you would work at it, if you would put effort into it, it could actually become a glorious experience. So that's my take on this question, guys.
Thank you so much, sir.
Pardon me for my long answers, by the way.
Yeah, no problem, sir. Actually, we are actually blessed to, again ask questions to you once again today. Only for question and session, we were able to spend time. That was actually great.
Thank you.
So I'm just moving on to the next question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this, I don't know, girl or boy, when I get stressed out, I automatically feel like I must end my life because I'm done with everything. So when the person is stressed out, the person feels that he or she is done with everything. So what should I do?
Wow. If you're listening, whoever sent this question, if you're listening, I want to say I really sympathize with you. Guys, whoever, can you mute that your mic, because I'm hearing myself talk. Yes, that's perfect. Okay. Now, whoever sent this question, I would really like to say to you, I hear you. I understand what you're going through, and it's not worth it for you to take your life. All right. I understand what stress does. Like what I was teaching you all yesterday, stress has emotional effects on us, right? And part of the emotional effect of stress on our life is lack of enthusiasm, is excessive worry, is basically feeling overwhelmed with life itself, and even having the tendency of wanting to totally give up. But let me say this to you. Though that is the nature of stress, though that's the nature of being overwhelmed, let me encourage you to look beyond what you're seeing right now. That famous movie Lion King, that the I forget all the names now, but Hakuna Matata. It means don't worry. But when you're hearing all that beautiful song, that little monkey, the wise old monkey that comes and he says this, he says, look beyond what you see. The reason why he says that is because when you are looking at what you're seeing, sometimes the frustration, the tension at home, the way people have been treating you, the way you have been stressed, whatever your stressors are, our body is built up with this fight or flight symptom. And, if you're not going to fight it, you're going to flight it. So automatically you want to find a way to escape this thing because it's too much for you to handle. But if you will just take off your eyes from this mountain that is before you and say, what's my purpose? What's my vision in life? My life it shouldn't just be thrown away like that. I'm taking time to talk to you because I love students who come to me and say, I don't feel like living anymore. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me show you something. Let me share the story with you. When I was working in the US, there was a point of time where I was very angry with my dad. The reason I was very angry with my dad was because I was working 3 jobs to pay off my college fees. And I was being a full-time student. And I had to get a good grade so that I can keep getting my scholarship. And it had gotten so hard on my life that I said, can't my dad help me? At the same time, my dad was actually helping my brother who was studying sound engineering in Canada. And I was mad because my brother was pursuing sound engineering and he was getting all the financial help. And he's my older brother. And I was so mad at my dad. And I was at the verge of giving up. So this one evening, I was washing dishes at my college after all the students had had dinner and they had left, and I was washing dishes. And one of my friends said, hey, after we finish washing dishes, there's this motivational speaker that's coming into, I studied in Rochester, New York. And he said, would you want to go? And I said, sure. So we went into the city after our work. And I didn't pay any attention because I was so tired. I was dying to get to bed. So I pretty much slept through the session, this whole motivation session. But whenever I was awake, at one point, he shared a story that really stuck with me all these days. He said, one day as he was driving, he said, I passed by a cemetery and I stopped. And he said, I got into the cemetery and I realized something. He said, when I looked at the cemetery, I saw a lot of people, buried there. But I didn't just see buried people and their names and, all the crosses. He said, what I saw was potential. I saw lawyers. I saw the greatest artists. I saw the greatest minds. I saw the greatest poets, the greatest speakers, the greatest inventors, the biggest scientists of this world. These great people buried there with all their potential. And they never became the scientists they should have been. They never became the greatest lawyer they should have been, ever been. They never became the greatest businesswoman she could ever been. They never became the greatest talent in music or art or film industry or whatever. They never tapped into that potential, but they took it with them to the grave. So he said, I came with the conclusion that the most wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard, because in the graveyard, you'll see a lot of averagers buried there with all their potential, with all their talent. And that really hit me. I came back home. As we were driving back, I said, why did they go to their grave with all that potential, with all that talent? You get only one chance to live life. What took them to their grave? Why were they so blind that they couldn't see this greatness that was in them? And as I was driving, I was talking to my friend, and I said, don't you think distraction is one of the because I was so distracted at that point of time. I was so stressed with my big mountain that was standing in front of me. I couldn't see the vision that was the purpose of my life that was behind that mountain. I came back home that day. I was literally shaking. I said, I cannot waste my life. It doesn't matter what my father's convictions are. It doesn't matter what people are thinking about me. I have to take initiative for my own life. I don't care what people are going to do against me, what they're going to speak against me, but my life, I'm going to invest in my life and I'm not going to waste it. There's one chance and I'm going to be a history maker. And that was the day when I decided saying, that's it. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to get stressed out. I'm not going to get distracted. I'm going to focus on who I am, what is my potential, what is my calling, what is my vision. I'm going to start working at it. I'm going to pour into my life and invest in my life. I tell you what, today it's bearing much fruit. So I want to encourage you. I hope I was there with you face to face. I would love to look you in your eye and say, don't give up on life. You get one chance to go through this. And I'll tell you what, in this one chance, you're going to have so many distractions, so many oppositions that come against you. But you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to fight for your life. If you choose to fight, you will see victory. If you choose to flight, then you're just a quitter, and then you will just be another statistic of suicide, which you should not be. So, my dear student, please, let me ask you today, there's much more to life. It's just the perspective. I know, I understand your pain. I understand, I sympathize with you. I feel the the struggle that you're going through, but at the same time, I want to start a fire in your heart saying, if nobody else is fighting for you, why don't you begin to fight for yourself? And don't give up hope, because that's what we are doing. I'm fighting for you. You matter. You are important. You are a person that this world needs. And I have no idea what you can bring to the table and make a difference in this world. And think about it. Maybe there's a potential inside of you that can change the history of this world. And so don't think you're not needed. You are very much needed, and you are precious. Don't ever entertain suicidal thoughts, ever, 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 no matter what happens. Just take a break. If you want to go worry for a few minutes, give some time to sit and worry. If you want to cry it out, cry it out. If you need to talk to somebody, find those shoulders you can lean on, find those people that you can have conversations with, but get help. These are all methods for you to start fighting your symptom right now. Because if you stay suicidal in your thoughts, I'll tell you what begins in your thought will end up in your action. That is how life works. It all begins in our thought. And there are so many students that unfortunately, unable to look beyond their mountain, have taken their life away. And they are precious gems that this world needs. So you, my friend, you are a gem that I need, my children need, that this world needs. So you cannot take your life. You have a responsibility to the coming generation. And I believe God has put some amazing potential inside of you that you need to rise up and start. So look into it. Ask yourself the question, what's my vision? What's my purpose? And let that start to, and as you see that, as you see in the next 3 years, what should I become? When those thoughts start to establish in your mind, those thoughts will start pulling you towards destiny. When you have something 3 years down the line that you're working towards, that thought will start giving you the moral energy and the strength that you need. It'll start pulling you towards your destiny, and you'll start working towards it. So I'm encouraging you. I understand the stress. I understand stress is something inevitable. We cannot escape from stress in life because it is a part of life, okay? But we can manage it. You can manage it well. That's why we're calling this session a stress management, okay? And so don't quit, don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope that person is listening to you. And I
so.
say that your life is precious, as sir said. Keep telling to yourself that my life is precious. Okay. So moving on to the next question. There is one question that is mostly repeated.
Okay.
How to reduce usage of mobile phones? I think because of COVID-19, also people are too much into technology.
Yes.
So how to reduce the usage of mobile phones?
Very good. Students, I'm so happy. Who is asking this question? I'm so happy that you're asking this question, because you're starting to realize cell phone can be a benefit and it can be a disadvantage as well, right? Good. Let me put it this way. I was just talking about vision, right? I was just talking about investing in life. We have 24 hours in every day, right? We have 24 hours a day, and say 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours for your education, etc. And then you have 8 more hours left. What are you doing in those other 8 hours really determines where you're going to go in life. Okay, your education is very important, but the other 8 hours is also very important. And today, unfortunately, we get into this mindless activity of going online, even if it's just being on Facebook, mindlessly just scrolling through, watching videos endlessly, sometimes all through the night, right? Now, you have to take initiative and you have to ask yourself, what will this activity do to me in my life? Everything that I do has some sort of an implication upon me, on my life, right? So if I'm going to get involved in this activity and I'm going to spend 8 hours in this activity, 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, how is this going to have benefited me? So I would like to ask you, and if you're saying, I know I'm just wasting my time, let me ask you, if you're unable to put the phone down, get some accountability partners. Because you're home so much, all right? Talk to mom and dad, talk to your brothers, your siblings, and say, look, if I'm on the phone for more than half an hour and I'm just wasting my time, I want you to come and take my phone away, confiscate it for whatever amount of hours. All right. Secondly, I would like to say, have a plan. Plan your day. I have a very good habit that I learned, I don't know from whom, but I've learned a long time ago that really helps me, my wife, a whole lot in our family, especially nowadays in COVID-19, in the lockdown where we've been home. We also, through our NGO, have been giving food and different activities. But most of the times when we are home, we have a structured day. So, but we plan our day the previous night, at least half hour before we go to sleep. My wife and myself, we sit and we say, okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? What's our day going to look like? And we, like you, when you go to college, your first hour is English, your second hour is math or commerce or whatever it is. Your day is scheduled for you. It's good to have a schedule, and that's kind of a small goal that you've set up, and you start going at it. When you start to do that, you actually start to better yourself. I have a very good example for this. My son was very addicted. I caught my son getting more and more addicted to the cell phone, and he was starting to get into it so much. And when I'm not around, he's in my phone, my wife's phone, my office phone, hours at a time. And he's doing his homework. I know he's doing research and different things. But at the same time, I'm also starting to understand, wait a minute, there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of Netflix, there's a lot of time he's spending on the phone. So this 21 days, we started to structure his day. I said, okay, you're not having time to go to school, but at this time, what can you do in this time? So when you started to structure it, you know, now my son actually in this last 40 days of lockdown actually learned how to play the guitar. He learned how to read better. He's doing his education work much better. He learned how to do chores around the house with much efficiency. He's doing carpentry. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay. So there's so much benefit of this thing when you structure your day that you can improve and better yourself. So let me say this, let me put it this way, and I'll finish with this question. You have to ask yourself, does my life matter? How much does my life matter to me? What do I want to become in life? And what am I doing towards that? Your everyday schedule determines what you're going to become in life. It's not just, some by luck you become a great person in life. No, your everyday schedule, your everyday grind determines what you're going to become in life. So if you're chilling out on your phone for hours at a time, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be an averager when you get to, some serious stages in life. And you're not going to be a person of peak performance because you've not invested enough in yourself. So it's a question of, it's like a garden. When you're growing a garden, you have to put time into it. You have to take care of those plants. You have to pull out those weeds. Only then you get an optimal result. And your heart, your life is the same way. It's like a garden. What are you doing? What are you putting into it is very important. How are you investing your time in this garden of life? And what you do, your response to your urges is very important, because you're going to have these urges to keep getting back on your phone and just go numb and just scroll, and you feel like it's a stress buster. But there are so many other things you can do. You can take up a book and you can start reading. I want you to focus on this as a student. Instead of picking up your phone so many times, pick up a book. Take a good book on reading, on leadership, on management skills. Have a good book. What you keep putting into yourself is what's going to manifest at the end of the day in your life. So take initiative about your behavioral patterns. Pay attention to your behavioral patterns. Pay attention to the passions of your heart and the cravings of your heart, so that you don't miss out and lose out on life, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the next question.
Yes, ma'am.
This particular question is from a teenager. I am unable to control sexual thoughts and privately watching pornography, but feels guilty. Help me regarding this.
Wow, this is a big subject. This is unfortunately a huge problem in today's youth. Pornography. I actually go about colleges teaching on pornography and what pornography does to human beings. Today's scientists actually call pornography as a drug because of the chemical reactions, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, and what it does, and how the addiction pattern kind of increases as the days go by, as the addiction kind of goes by. There was a research I was a part of in 2014 when we had a lot of rapes and issues in Bangalore, and not only Bangalore, India. We had the Delhi rape situation. A lot of things were going on. Mr. Raman Reddy was our police commissioner at the time, and so we wanted to, do studies on what is causing people to get into such heinous activities as raping a little girl, 6-year-old girl, or a 3-year-old girl, to any age for that matter. And so Mr. Raman Reddy actually gave us permission, and so we went to Parapana Agrahara and we started to question, get all the criminals who had been convicted with sexual activity and crime. And when we did the case study, we started to find out that almost 99.9% of the people that we interviewed and we did case study, they were all addicted to pornography. And so that was very alarming and shocking. So we did some studies to find out what's going on about this. And Oxford has put out studies there. Harvard University in the US has put out studies out there talking about how pornography, actually, when people start to watch pornography, there is a direct correlation. There's a pathological change that actually begins to happen. It's kind of like the ad, when you watch a 30-second ad of a KTM bike or a beautiful dress or whatever it is. When you watch that ad, the whole ideology behind that is to convince you in 30 seconds to get into your brain and convince you that you need it, that having that product would give you a certain status in life, would give you a certain feeling and experience that you don't want to miss out on. Now, when that happens, in 30 seconds, what enters through your eye, like somebody said, the eye is the window of the soul. What enters through your eye now has become a thought in your head. And your thought, quickly, you start imagining yourself riding that bike or wearing that dress or having that experience in life. When that becomes a thought, a meditation of your heart and your mind, quickly it transfers to becoming a desire. What do you do then? You come and tell mommy, if you don't buy me that dress, I'm going to commit suicide. Or if you don't buy me that bike, I'm going to cause all these troubles. Why? Because now desire is giving direction for your life. It's demanding something that you need as an experience. Same thing with pornography. Somebody's watching it. The first time they see it, pornography goes in 3 stages. There's the first stage of pornography is just a man and woman having sex. The second stage of pornography is, let me just put it like this, violent pornography. The third stage of pornography is child pornography. And it's very heinous. The first time somebody watches pornography, there's a certain amount of dopamine released in the brain. Scientists actually say the amount of dopamine releases in your brain is the same amount of dopamine when somebody snorts cocaine. So when you have that amount of dopamine released in your brain, dopamine is this feel-good chemical that's going to make you come again and again to have this feeling, to have this experience. So sometimes it's not just the nakedness that you're watching, it's also the dopamine release that has happened in your brain that's going to demand you to come back again. And you want to experience that adrenal rush, that feeling. But the problem with that is this. Sooner or later, if you're watching something like that over a course of time, it's going to bring you into degradation, because that's what pornography does. It's not going to remain there. The same amount of dopamine levels that were coming in when you're watching a man and woman have sex on screen is not going to remain the same over a course of time. So you're watching it for 3 months, 4 months. What starts to happen is you start to get this. What you're watching becomes monotonous and boring, and you want to watch something more aggressive, something more graphic. And this is where you start getting into the second stage, which is violent pornography. Now, the problem with pornography is this. It's going to go from one stage to another stage, just like any other drugs goes. You start with light drugs, but the more you do it, you want more and more, so you can get that kind of a feeling, a kick in your brain. Okay, I'm saying that to say this because pornography is a drug. And when you get into pornography, it is a chemical that is in your brain that is solidifying this addiction. Okay, so I'm so happy that you have actually come up and said, I need help, because you really do. If you don't, this will progress into what you're seeing, will get into violent pornography. It can advance into child pornography, and guess what happens? Whatever you're seeing can affect your thoughts. Whatever affects your thoughts will become your desire. Whatever becomes your desire will become action, and every action has consequences. All right. So this is a good time that you're asking, I need help. You need help to get out of this. Okay. So my first suggestion to you is, please, if you, as you have counselors in your colleges, please go sit with them and say, listen, this is who I am. I am the person. There's no shame in this. It's just like any other drug that but I want to take initiative for my life. I don't want to lose my life. I don't want to get into activities that are heinous, that is debilitating, that is destructive, that is damaging to the society. I want to get out of this. And if you will take that initiative, this is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. You need accountability. You need porn blocking softwares on your on the stuff that whether it's your phone or computer or laptop, iPad, whatever it is you're using. You need help with these things, and also good counseling. Like I said, it's not a one-session thing. You need somebody to walk with you, because this is a journey to undo this pattern. Okay, now. We also have, of course, with principal's permission, with father's permission, we will discuss with father and principal and your faculty as well. We have a counseling center for students who especially come with either drug addiction, porn addiction, living in bad relationships, anything related to human trafficking. We actually have a counseling center for students where 8 weeks of free counseling is offered to students with the principal's permission, with the parents' permission, where we come in as a community. So we are helping even within your family. I know initially it's very difficult to expose such things to the family right away, but eventually a recovering addict needs all the help that they need. I'm sorry to call you that, but that's what pornography does. Its intention is to make the viewer an addict, and to make the viewer and to destroy the life of a viewer. And I have so much of statistics and studies that I've done on this. I was actually a part of a study in California where every 39 minutes a porn movie is released. And for a whole year, I've actually worked with porn stars in the US. Name all the big name stars. They actually know me by name because we've worked with them with psychological help. We've talked to porn stars and have seen the dark side of this porn industry. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but if that's probably another session for us to discuss, then wonderful, we can do that. But let me tell you, there's no joy in this. This is a downward spiral road that is a journey for you to come out of. And I'm glad that you asked this question. We are more than willing to help you with this issue. And so anybody, and I'm throwing this out there for any students, approach your college, approach your counselors in your college, talk to them about this. There's extended help that we are also offering as an NGO. Ruomai Missions International also has a big part of this, where we are doing counseling centers for students. We actually have mobile counseling centers right now where we go to the very areas where students are instead of asking them to come to our location. And we are meeting at coffee days, whatever, to have conversations and help students for 8 sessions, and it's all free just for students. So you need help, and thanks for asking that question. And anybody else that's struggling with this, you need help as well. And this thing is meant to destroy you. In my experience, over a decade, I've worked with porn stars, with porn addiction, with drug addiction. And let me tell you, with my experience, this is what I've learned. Guys, it does lead to criminal life. And there are people who say, nah, that's not true. I'm not a criminal. I watch porn, on and off and all of that. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of symptoms. There's a lot of problems with that. And sometimes it doesn't surface within a decade. Sometimes it does. But whatever you plant in your mind as a seed, whatever thought gets in there, it's going to manifest, and that's a reality. And I've seen it again and again and again and again. In this last 10 years, I've worked with a lot of porn addicts, and I've seen these patterns. If it's not undone, it definitely messes with your life, and it's very debilitating to your future. So I hope that answers your question. Please get in touch with us. Thank you.
Before moving on to the next question, I request the participants to mute your audio and video. Please mute your audio and video. Okay, so I'm going to the next question.
Yes.
I think this is from a student. I hate online classes and I enjoy spending time with my friends. But nowadays, my parents are always behind me. Please help me. Almost similar to that, there is one more question, sir.
Okay.
Nowadays, because of online classes, a lot of students are getting stressed out. They are facing health issues, and most of the time, they are getting distracted also. So, how can we handle this situation or issues?
Sure. Guys, with the current situation with COVID especially, this is going to be the new normal, at least until a vaccination and different things are found. And I understand the urge to meet friends, the joy of that community, because your college is not just an education institution, it's your community now. It's where you're gelling with people, you've had meaningful conversations, you miss that companionship of your friends, and that's understandable. But, and it is a problem as well. And like ma'am said at the beginning, a problem is also an opportunity for you to learn certain things and take some meditating. It takes some time to meditate, think about your issue and say, what can be the best outcome of this current situation? And so I've encountered students go through loneliness, go through, because of lack of companionship, because of there are students who don't have cell phones, who don't have ways to, even at this day and era, to be able to contact their friends. Only if dad comes home, then they have a phone to call. And even that's not many, for a few, not even for a longer period of time. It's very short conversations. And they really miss their friends, and that's true. But at the same time, this can also be a learning experience where you're learning in life. Not always things work out the way you want it to, and when they don't, what are you going to allow it to do to you? When the circumstances are, when you're swimming against the tide, what's going to be your response? Are you going to be bogged down by it? Are you going to allow it to, make you weak and make you submit to the circumstance, or will you rise above? Right? So I understand that you're missing your friends. I understand online classes are hard to deal with right now. I understand it's a challenge. But I would also like to say, can you accept the challenge and say, now, if this is my new normal, then I also have to come up with a strategy of how to work this. Now, let me say, when you finish college and when you go to workplace, there are professionals listening to us right now. Talk to them. They'll tell you, when you go to the workplace, it's a whole new ball game. There's challenges every single day. There's threats every single day. Somebody wants your chair as soon as you got it. Somebody else wants your position, and they're fighting for it. And they're doing way better than you. It's a totally different ball game altogether. And so what makes you stronger is situations like this. When you say, when I am faced with a challenge, I'm going to come up with a solution to say, what's my next step? I'm facing a new normal right now. What's going to be my response? I'm going to rise above. I'm going to look beyond what I'm seeing right now. And I'm going to come up with a strategy. It's very important. I'm going to come up with a strategy. So our online class is hard to deal with. Yes. Okay. But what can I do to cope with this? What are things that I can work with so that this works much better? If my concentration is scattered, sitting and looking at a screen, what are techniques that I can follow? You would have to do some personal research for your personality and your approach of things. So when a challenge is presented to you, you need to ask yourself important questions. What is my fight plan? What is my fight plan for this challenge that's come? How am I going to respond to this? And it's good that you take some time to think about this. One thing that I'm very shocked about with a lot of young people, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, I'm saying this to encourage you, is many people don't think about the changes that happens to them. A change has come. COVID-19 is a huge change. It's such a game changer right now, where if you've not had some personal thinking time, you're in trouble. You have to take stock of who you are, how you work, how your personality works, what is your learning capacity, how do you best learn. You take all those things into question. You have to do some personal analysis and say, okay, now how am I going to approach my problem? How am I going to approach this new normal, and take that into consideration? Parents behind us, Again, why are they behind me? Ask yourself that question. Many a times we just say, oh my gosh, my parents, they won't give me a break. Sometimes maybe you have to step into their shoes and say, hey, can you, at a more peaceful note, can you sit down and tell me why are you so concerned? What's going on? And I want to see through your shoes. I want to see myself through your eyes. I tell you, when you do that, my goodness, it really brings a whole new perspective. Definitely, your parents are so concerned about you not losing in life because of the competition, because of the work world, what's happening in our society, what's happening in the world right now. Your parents have good intentions for you. They want you to be winners, right? So they have a certain pressure they're putting on you because they want you to perform. Now, not all times that's healthy. Sometimes that is needed. Sometimes even more. Sometimes some students need to go through boot camps with their parents. But at the same time, I would also say, talk to your parents and say, can you explain to me what's your concern so that we can start working at this? If your parents mean well for you, I tell you what, that's the biggest support you have on earth right now. They are your biggest cheerleaders as you are running this race called life. And I would sit and talk with my parents and say, hey, why do you push me so much? What are your fears? What are you seeing in me that I'm not seeing in me? That's a very good question to ask, because many times as young people, we always think we know everything. That's a problematic view of life. If you think you know everything, then you are prideful, and pride comes before the fall, which means you are going to fall. So you don't want that. It's good to take the humble approach and say, I want to know if you're seeing something in me that I'm not able to see, so that I can have a better perspective of my life and I can train myself to be able to handle challenges better. So I know online classes is a new normal, guys, and it's difficult, but I give much props to your teachers, the principal, the staff that is working so hard so that you don't have a gap in your education, so that your learning continues. This is all good for you at the end of the day. Right? So if my doctor tells me you have to take your medication for diabetes, but you still have to walk half an hour every day, I'm going to do both. Why? Because both are good for me, right? Though I don't like the walking part, but still it's good for me, so I'm going to do it. And so that's what I'm saying. Though you don't like the online classes, it's good for you. Some medicines don't taste good, but if you don't take it, it's going to cut your life short. So you don't want to cut your opportunity short. You don't want to cut your talent, your potential development short. So you have an opportunity to learn. And unfortunately, it's not happening the way you like it. But that's how life is. Sometimes things happen to us that we don't want it that way. But can you strategize and say, my new fight plan is this? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to do what is good for me. And it will help you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have time, sir? Can we just take another 2 or 3 more questions?
Sure.
Okay. So this is, I think now we just dealt with the students' problem. I think this one is related to being a homemaker, women's problem, okay? So in this pandemic time, when especially women have a lot of work to do, right? As an employee, as a parent, and also as a homemaker, and they're not able to get time for themselves, right? So can we do something about it to overcome the situation? I think I've got almost similar question. This particular teacher, she also feels very stressed out, a lot of work at home, and she feels to go back to college because at least she'll be able to get some freedom. And everybody in the home, they are actually blaming her for everything. So she just feels very stressed out. She's also asking like, please do help me regarding this.
Absolutely. I so wish my wife was here at my office right now to be able to answer this question. She is such a woman of wisdom, and I really miss that she is not here to take this question. But I can speak for her because she has taught me a lot of good things. And I also want to say this. Hats off to all the moms. Hats off to all the teachers that are also moms at home that are taking care of your family. Honestly, guys, we don't appreciate our moms enough. And whoever's blaming them for everything, I really pray that your eyes open to see what they go through. guys, if we do that, then we are insensitive. And let me explain that a little bit more as well, because we all know a woman's job is 24/7. I mean, my wife is the director for our NGO, and she has a plate full with working with anti-human trafficking, finding women who are stuck in prostitution, helping them out, sending medical kits. There's so much she does. On top of that, we have 3 kids. She has to be a mom. She has to be my wife. She has to be the director in our organization. She has to run all these different projects. We have 5 different main projects that we're running through our organization. There's a lot on the plate already. But at the same time, when I see her work, it's mind-blowing how at every day morning at 5 she's up, she's taking care of the family. She needs to do what she's doing a lot of things. Okay. And I bet you all moms are doing the same thing. There's a lot of weight on their shoulders. There's a lot of pressure on them, guys. So let me encourage you today to, first of all, after this call, please, for my sake, after this call, please give your mom a hug. Please tell your mom that you appreciate her. They are very less appreciated. Please tell them, thank you for what you've done. Right from the time you were conceived with me to bearing me 9 months and dealing with all my shenanigans and then, and putting up with COVID-19 where the entire family's burdens on your shoulders. Okay. So please, I'm requesting you, I'm begging you to go and show appreciation and love after this call. Please do it with your parents. Show them some love, okay? I'd like to tell moms what my wife did, okay? When COVID-19 came, this was such a huge task on us, especially for my wife. And I'm going to just share what I learned from her. Because we were feeding poor families all around the city. We were giving ration kits. We were coordinating with government. There were so many things that were going on. And I had to learn this from her. She pulled us all together. She said, we have a family meeting. By the way, mothers, I think you have to establish this thing called family meeting. Like in our offices, when we have an issue, we have a staff meeting. And so we, in our home, we had a family meeting. I was never introduced to that concept until my wife did it. So the family meeting consisted of my wife brought out the pointers and said, look, this is this phase of life. None of us have experienced this before. We have zero experience in a situation like this. All of a sudden, everyone's home. And our work hasn't diminished. We have more work to do right now. Our food project is skyrocketing. There's so many things going on. And you can't put all the weight on me. So in the family meeting, we came up with some hardcore rules. And we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Every day, everybody is going to have different things to do in the house. It's not because there's no maids, there's no other help, external help right now. We have to do everything. So we charted it out and said, as a family, we are a team, and this is how we're going to function. My wife did all this. She put a PowerPoint together. She got us, all of us together, and she said, can we all agree to do these things? And we had a lengthy discussion. Who's going to sweep the house? Who's going to cook? And I got a lot of cooking to do. I got a lot of learning. I did a lot of YouTube learning and did some cooking so my wife can continue. But bearing the burden, all right, everybody sharing in the burden is very important at this time. So I would say if you can organize a family meeting and discuss, and in that first 10, 15 minutes of the family meeting, my wife talked about her. My wife said, guys, I want you to know as a human being what I'm going through. What are my stress levels? What are my fears? What are my struggles? What are my frustrations with all of you guys? And then I also want you to know that I love you. I would die for you guys. But at the same time, I also want you to know that we can work together as a team and we can overcome this stressful situation and do some amazing things. We can make miracles happen. Now, when she explained what she was going through and she showed us her journey, quite frankly, it gave us insight into what she was going through. Because even I, being busy with what I was doing, I didn't have insight into what my wife was actually going through. And I needed her to sit us down and say, look, this is what's happening in my life right now. And I need you guys to come alongside of me as a team, and let's all work together and let's make miracles happen. And then she also gave us encouragement. I'm there to help you. I'm home. You don't know how to make rasam? Talk to me. I'll teach you. You don't know how to cook white rice? I'm going to show you how to do it. I'll tell you. But there are times that we're going to have to split our work, our burden, and that encouragement. So now every Friday we have our family meeting and we do a as assessment, which is a lot of fun. A lot of we enjoy what was happening. My wife is doing secret videos and of us working in the house and the funny things that happens, and we have a good family time. But that's important. If we don't talk it out, then we're going to stress it out. We're going to work at it, and it's going to be way too hard for us. So our family approach was this. I don't know how much this is helping you, but our family approach was, let's sit it out, let's have a meeting, and let's all start to share in the burden. And it's not like only mom should do, the sweeping, the cleaning, the washing. I sweep my home. I wash clothes at my house. My wife does as well. We all share it. There's no, this is only the woman's job. This is only the man's job. No, we are a family. We support each other. We help each other out. We have to be strength and support. And tell you what, when you do things like that, there's so much more expression of love in the family. Automatically when you're carrying each other's burden, automatically there is a sense of appreciation for each other, and that is what makes your family stronger and this family experience beautiful, guys. So moms, first of all, hats off to you guys, but at the same time, if you can get your family together and have a heart-to-heart open conversation with them, and it should not be a random talk. Get the entire family, sit them down, say, this is family meeting time and this is how it's going to be, guys. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have discussions. We can have arguments. We can agree to disagree, all of that, but we have to come up with a strategy, because this thing can probably continue till August, probably go till December, and we can't kill each other over this. And you can't put all the burden on one person and then suddenly you're tearing them out, and then one day they are gone because you didn't carry enough weight from their shoulders. We don't want that to happen. So I think I hope this answers your question. If we can have an approach like that, it's greatly helped us. It's greatly helped my family, and I pray that it will be the same for you. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Next question.
Yes.
How can we manage stress which is imposed by social media? Because nowadays they are showcasing so much of negativity, like crime, politics. I think even COVID-19, I think we are getting so many negative news actually, more than positive. We are getting a lot of negative news. So how to handle the pressure or stress which is created by social media?
Absolutely. Turn it off, guys. Turn it off. See, let me say it this way. We need to be aware of what's happening, but you need to also know what's healthy for me. If I watch a lot of negative stuff around me, if I'm on Facebook, on social media, and seeing all this negative things that's happening around me, it's going to have a direct impact on who I am. I need to know, but I also know to what measure and what extent I need to know. And I'm not going to give up on optimism in life. I'm not going to be pessimistic. I'm not going to be like what I was saying yesterday, negative self-talk. I'm not going to give room to all of those things, because unfortunately, how the media works is this way. There's a lot of TRP. There's a lot of want for the bad news. There's a want of people are more curious about the negative stuff that's happening around you. Now, this has been the case for how many thousands of years, guys? It's always been this rumors of wars, earthquakes, problems, diseases. All these things have been there for thousands of years. And people who have put boundaries, and this is what I would say, put healthy boundaries in your life and say, that's enough. You have to know when you have to draw the line and say, that's enough. More than this is going to become an emotional stress on myself. So I choose not to know anymore. I watch news every day, but there's a certain amount that I will have as intake. And after that, I'm like, that's more than enough. I have enough information to keep functioning. I don't need to mindlessly give away hours to social media, to all of this hangama that's happening around me, so that and that has a direct impact on me. All right. So again, it's the question of investing every day. Like I said, if you want to achieve greatness, it's not a magic. It's not a miracle that happens to achieve greatness. Actually goes back to your everyday schedule. So what amount of time you're putting into social media is a big question. How much you're watching news is a big question. If a lot of negative stuff is coming around you, and I'll tell you what, in this last few months or last few days of COVID-19, there's a lot of good stuff that happened. There's a lot of humanitarian efforts that happened, which never surfaced the media as much as it should have. All right, there were people who were getting passes from government and coming out in the streets. Our team from ROMI every day during COVID-19 was out helping families, giving out medical kits, taking care of families, taking care of children, moving people to hospital. There was so many great good things that happened that's never talked about, and that's what the media is all about. So you have to put a balance right now and say, I'm not going to allow these social pressures. And it's not just COVID-19. It's even other things. Look at people who are watching Facebook for so long. I've talked to students who have come up with low self-esteem, saying, I've been on Facebook for so long and I'm seeing people have a marvelous life. People are, they look so beautiful. They have all this makeup. They have all these outings, etc., etc. And what has happened is subconsciously they've started to compare themselves with somebody else. And now all of a sudden we are starting to see this person basically sinking in life because they are all they are thinking is, I am not good enough. I am not up to the mark. I'm not hip to the culture, etc., etc. And it's destroying them. All right. Now, if they hadn't spent that time on Facebook, the whole aspect of comparing wouldn't have been the scenario. And if they would stop comparing and start investing, they could start experiencing life to the fullest as well. Now, what happens with these things is, and think about it, the person who's posting pictures on Facebook actually did 50 clicks to get one perfect click, which they're posting on Facebook too. And it's all pretense. I'm not saying all of it is pretense, but a lot of what we see on Facebook is not necessarily reality per se. There's a lot of pretense that goes on. There's a lot of showcasing that goes on as well. So my encouragement to you would be, guys, turn it off. Don't worry about it. Okay. Focus on you. Right? Don't let that stress you. You have control over that. All right. And you don't have to compare yourself with anybody, and you don't have to have unhealthy fears of what's happening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes.
Sir? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm saying, yes, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be problems, but you don't have to allow unhealthy fear rule or grip your heart. The world has been through problems always. The world has seen wars at all times. The world has seen sickness, pestilence, diseases at all times. This has been cases. And yes, COVID-19 is a new thing, but there was SARS, there was Ebola, there was so many different such things that has happened in the past, but we've made it through. So I'm encouraging you to have the positive mindset to say, look, I am a winner. I'm not a loser. The worst of the worst in my life, but I'm going to push forward to see all the great things that's in store for me. And what do I need to do for it? Invest. I'm going to do that. If I have to sacrifice social media, I'm going to sacrifice social media because I need to know what I need to know, but I don't need to be excessively on it where it has a direct impact on me emotionally, mentally, and physically. So my encouragement is, guys, when you need to turn it off, you know it inside, turn it off. Don't allow it to bother you at all. Thank you, guys.
So one last concluding question.
Absolutely.
So could you please, give us some tips? Because all of us are facing a lot of problem, wherein many have already lost their jobs. There are lots of financial issues going on, family issues. And as we already discussed, students are facing a lot of problems. And so many people lost their life and lost their loved ones. So it's all together. There is lots of stress and pandemic and anxiety, all that. So could you please give some advice for everyone? This is just a concluding question, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you all of you guys who have been so patient in listening. Yes, like I said yesterday, stress is going to be a part of our life. And all these things, especially in the times that we now live in, and the things that have occurred, the problems, the life, the deaths that have happened around us, the job, people who have lost their jobs, the uncertainty of future. There's so many things that has happened in these last few days, and it's definitely an issue of concern. Definitely has caused stress. So like what I was saying yesterday, guys, you have to have your fight plan. You have to have you. This too will pass. Let me say that. Let me be honest with you. This too will pass. It's not the end of the world, though it seems that way. It's not the end of the world. Be positive. Have that thing in your mind saying, I am a winner. I'm not going to quit no matter what happens in the weather, no matter what happens ecologically, geologically, no matter what happens in the borders of our country, no matter what happens. There is a life for me. There is a purpose for me. And until my time, until I achieve and complete my purpose, complete my task here on earth, it's not over for me. I'm still in the game. The game's not over. You know, the game can get difficult, the game can get challenging, but the game's not over. So have that inside of your spirit. You know, have that fighting spirit that says, I am not going to quit by these pressures around me. And there is a purpose for my life. Every human being has we have a different fingerprint. Every human being is so different. Likewise, our potential, our talents, what we can bring to this world is very unique and very different. So I think you should be on an expedition on that. You should be on the discovery mode to find out what's the unique gifting that is inside of me that this world and generations to come are looking forward to. What can I offer? And when you're in that pursuit, when you're purposefully in that drive, these other things are not going to bog you down, guys. We have only one life to live, just one chance to go through this world, and time flies, which is a true statement, right? So don't allow your time to be wasted. Like I was telling you yesterday, we have these three things: time, talent, and opportunity. All of you have talent. Cultivate that talent, fan it into flame, work at that talent as much as you can, beat it up, come up with the best version of you right now. And as you work hard at you, as you invest at you, you've used that time wisely to improve that talent. And when you do that, opportunities, doors will swing open in your face. You will stand before kings because you have worked on your skill. And that is a reality in life. All right. So I would say to you, do that. And when stress comes, like I was giving you some techniques yesterday of how to handle it, there are connect with people, find good friends, find people that you can share your heart with. You're not meant to carry your burdens alone. Have your little clan that you can turn to and say, hey, I need some listening ears right now. Can you listen to me? All right. Can we have a conversation? Have mentors in your life who have walked the road, who have been through this process of college, what you're going through right now. Have some mentors, have some accountability partners who you are sharing with and saying, I believe this is my purpose and this is my vision in life. Can you keep me accountable, right? Learn skills, develop your discipline habits, have a disciplined life, right? Some of us don't like that word discipline. Well, if you're not disciplined, you're not going to go far in life. So you need these strong skill sets, sit and learn that. How can, just on YouTube, go and click videos on discipline or lectures on discipline and start to learn those things. Like I was saying earlier, what you feed yourself with, that's what's going to manifest. What you keep eating every day is who you are, as we say, right? So if you are feeding yourself with knowledge, with wisdom, your life is going to be better constructed. You're going to have a better fight plan. You're going to be so effective in this society and this one chance of life that you have as a human being that you can make a difference in this world. So you have to take initiative for yourself, right? Connect with people. Take time to relax every day. Make it a part of your schedule, all right? Whether you're doing meditation, whether you're listening to music, playing music, whether you're meditating, whether you're doing yoga, whatever it is, take some time just to relax. I'm not talking about exercise. That's a different ballgame. I'm saying take some time to relax. Take some time to think. All right. Another thing I would like to say is every day before you go to bed, have a book, have a journal where you can sit down and say, what was my day like? All right. And start journaling, start putting in points saying how much of productivity was shown in my day today. What were things that I did that will spur me into my destination? Note those things down. Also write the negatives. What were things that I did? Where did I waste my time? What were things that I shouldn't have done that I would regret in the future? Write those things down. And and then write your own conclusion. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. It's not going to be the same mistakes. Take stock of your life. If you can do it every day, at least for 10 minutes in the evening before you go to bed, in the night, sit and take stock. Have your personal time. In the times we live in, our life is so crowded with noise, TV shows, this, that, and the other, and we don't have personal time, personal space. That is so important to you as a human being. Don't miss out on that. Eat healthy, guys. Please don't stuff yourself with everything which you get. All right, eat as healthy as you can. I love again, I'm not a vegan, but at the same time, I love plant-based foods. They give you energy. They are healing to your body, and it helps how your brain functions. Look into these things, research them for yourselves. What are best foods to eat? What are things on a daily basis that my body needs, and how to feed my body with these things so that I don't need to end up taking 50 pills when I'm 50 years old. But I can, manage my life much more better and be more effective. Another thing I would say, guys, sleep is something you need to work on. Don't take naps after 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's going to reduce your drive for sleep at night. If you're taking a nap at 4 o'clock in the evening, you're setting yourself up for failure at night. You're going to stay up till 1 o'clock at night, which is going to ruin your day in the next day morning. You're feeling tired. You're not getting enough sleep. And that's one big problem that we as young people are facing right now is there's not enough sleep, right? Make a schedule. Make that a part of your discipline as well. Don't take any naps. Don't take any caffeine intake after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Find out how your body is working. Have good knowledge about your personal functionality. And when you know these things, you're best aided, you're best helped to go through life with more smoothly, right? So I would say, please do that. Get some good sleep and definitely get some good workout as well. Every day, keep doing some exercise, sweat out those toxins. Make sure that your life is healthy and you are happy. You need those release of endorphins as you're doing exercises. And find something that you can do. Okay, this will definitely be beneficial. I wish you all the very best. And for the future, I would like to know one day, as I'm sitting as an old man, I would like to know you guys are making history. You guys are working and fullest of your potential, so that the generations that come will look at you and salute your life and the content of your life. Yeah, we need quantity for life, but we also need quality of life. So I pray, I hope that you are benefited by this and that you make the best version of you. You start working towards that for your life and for the glory of God. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, sir. Such an effective, inspiring session. I'm sure after the session, many of them are going to look at the life with more positivity and hope. Definitely, there is going to be a lot of positive changes in at least some of their lives. If the answer is yes, I think we have achieved our objective, and that was the whole purpose of our national webinar on stress management. Thank you so much, sir, for spending your time with us. Now, I request Mr. Felix, HOD Department of Arts, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone. Sir, really it's amazing.
Thank you, sir.
A thoughtful thanks and appreciation to you. You accepted our second invitation and answered all the participants' queries. Hope it helps the participants to overcome stress. Secondly, we promise we will continue to have journey to help students and their parents. You are different levels. I don't have any words to appreciate you.
You're very kind, sir. Thank you.
My sincere thanks to our director, Father Victor, Principal, Mr. Nicholas, Vice Principal, Father Mervyn, PU Principal, Father Andrew, and all the faculty members for your moral support. I feel proud that I got an excellent team in Department of Arts and Humanities. There is no words to appreciate their sincere hard work. My sincere thanks to Father Sunil Miranda and Mrs. Divya and also Ms. Navita who helped us. We never expect such a good response from the participants. Thank you so much for all the participants to spend some valuable time and ask wonderful questions. And you can see both the days program in our college website. Without God, nothing is possible. Our Almighty is always with us. Everything is good. Since yesterday program not that good, that ended so nicely, God blessed me to have a wonderful day today. I strongly believe God is there with us always. He only plans all our activities. Yes, my dear friends, you are a wonderful person in the universe. You can handle stress with very comfortably and confidently. You are good. Be good. Be safe. Be proud of yourself. Be happy. God is with you. I have faith on you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Before concluding, I would like to thank our HOD, Mr. Felix, Department of Arts, for not giving up. Actually, yesterday we had some technical issues. Definitely people would have been upset with that. But more than that, we were looking at the positive side of it, and we got a lot of experience. We know how to organize, okay, without much of problem. So we would like to thank our HOD for his never giving up attitude. Thank you so much, sir, for being such a wonderful support for all of us. And now I request all the participants to fill up the feedback form. We have already sent a link. So please submit it. E-certificate will be provided on submission of feedback form. You'll be getting your e-certificate within 1 week in your registered email ID. So those who have filled the feedback form can leave the session. So all of you stay happy, stay safe, stay home, and have a stress-free life. Thank you so much for joining us. And definitely this is like a very encouraging for us to come up with some more events like this. Thank you all. Thank you so much.